Hello and welcome to Unwarranted Music Opinions. I'm June Lindberg here with Brian Courtney
Hello.
and Chaz Jenkins.
Don't mutilate my mink.
Every time you do your little intro thing, you say some kind of reference from one of the albums that we haven't yet talked about, so no one knows what the fuck you're saying, unless they're like for some reason rewatching episodes.
Or unless
Because
they
they just have
already know what's in the album, which
unless they have just like favorite unwarranted music opinions episodes that they always go back to, are committed fans. Today's episode is just a regular episode. We got to choose whatever the heck we wanted, and it's a pretty freaking varied episode with a lot of different stuff to talk about. I think we're gonna kick it off with Brian's pick.
Yeah, so I picked the current year 2021 release by jazz outfit Sons of Kemet. There's not a lot to it. They kind of have a unique lineup. I think it's like two tubas, a trumpet, and whatever other players they bring on. So they kind of have like a unique layout for a jazz band as far as like instrumentation goes. And this is their very like Afrocentric album, Black to the Future, which is, in some ways reactionary to a lot of the stuff that happened in 2020 as far as like protests and stuff went, with like, the George Floyd protests, Breonna Taylor protests and all that. And just that's where a lot of the content seems to be coming from, with the music on here and the topics they explore. And the track titles as well. The vibes that the tracks are capturing are very much tied to what the pieces are called. And that's kind of it. I guess like my thoughts on it. I like this less because I listened to it again, to be honest. I wasn't as enamored with it as I was before. And that's mostly due to like kind of a lackluster middle portion of the album, where there's a couple of songs that just aren't as good as the stuff that closes it out and opens it. So, for example, like the first two tracks, the opening and closing of the album is a kind of a spoken word piece over some chaotic jazz instrumentals. I really like those. I like the second track with More Mother, who was on, kind of blew up with that collaborative project at the beginning of this year with Billy Woods. And I like her feature a lot. I like that track a lot. And they're like chaotic, like very driving jazz beats. But as we get into like, Think of Home is like the first track that I'm like, okay, I mean, this is all right. And it's just like a cool little 3-minute groove. And then Hustle and For the Culture are like two songs that I just didn't really like that much when I got back to the album. Because I remember first listening to it and I just thought the whole thing was really awesome. But like re-listening to it, this part drags kind of a lot. Like the grooves they ride aren't that interesting. The vocal performances kind of leave a lot to be desired. Hustle, not so much as For the Culture and To Never Forget the Source. Those two tracks I think are pretty lackluster. And Hustle is just like okay. Envision Levitating. That track's awesome. That's my favorite track probably. Just love the like meditative and spacey vibe. And Circle Unbroken is cool. I think that one's pretty hypnotic. Kind of entrances me a little bit. And In Remembrance has these nice sorrowful horns and I was going to say a big crazy ending, but that's actually on Circle Unbroken. And then, like I said, the last track, the second spoken word piece, is really good too. It's just a real good modern jazz record. That's kind of how I view it. I'm not like a huge jazz head anyway. I think the unique lineup of the band adds a lot for me. But other than that, I kind of picked this because I just didn't know what else to pick. And honestly, now I kind of wish I'd gone with something else because I do like it, but I don't necessarily find it to be like the most interesting thing, I think we could have like continued down like the Wu-Tang path. Like I think going on to like Raekwon would have maybe been a more interesting discussion than this. Because I just feel like this is just like a good jazz record. There's not a whole lot to it outside of the unique lineup that I mentioned.
See, I would say mostly in agreement. I think we should mention that a little more background on the band. Like they've been operating out of London for almost a decade now. Their members are involved in a lot of other projects.
Most notably, I think Shabaka and the Ancestors. I think is that group.
What's his name? Shabaka Hutchings? Isn't that his name? Shabaka Hutchings, yeah. they definitely have made a name for themselves with their breakout record, Your Queen is a Reptile, a few years ago, back in 2018.
Fucking bolded.
Which, honestly, based on the way you were describing what you wanted more from out of this record, I think you should go back and listen to Your Queen is a Reptile, because that record it has the intensity, it has the rhythms, it has the grooves that I feel like this record kind of is missing. Now, that's not to say this is a bad record or a weak record in any respect, but I felt like the first couple spoken word pieces, the first one, the first track with Joshua, Eden, and then More Mother on the next track, quite angry and had this sort of intensity to them. But I think the majority of this record is really kind of chill, a little bit laid back, not too crazy, not too aggressive. And well, that's entirely fine. Like, I wish that energy, maybe I wish they'd gone even further into the poetry aspect or the spoken word bits of this.
It definitely feels like an album
just a bit more
of two halves, because a lot of those vocal, the tracks with vocals on them are all in the front half, besides the closer.
I just kind of wanted more of the poetry, honestly. And I more of the poetry to get these songs there's good songs. But just to liven them up a bit. The first record, or not the first record, but Your Queen is a Reptile was, I believe, almost entirely instrumental, but it is, it's intense. It's got the intensity and the attitude and the flavor, and just the grooves that I think this one is missing a little bit. Like I said, it's just not quite as gripping.
It sucks to be kind of critical of it, because it is good, like you're saying, but like it just, having heard it so many times now and having loved it so much more when I heard it the first few times, it definitely feels like the flaws are sticking out more to me right now, because that's just, when I was listening to it, that's what was standing out at the time, despite all the stuff I liked,
Y'all are dum-dums. This album is fucking amazing. Let me tell you why. Your guys' complaint seems to be very consistent with what a lot of other people on RIM and YouTube are saying about the album.
To be fair, I think I don't have the context of having heard the first one, so mine are just sort of. I think a lot of people. Yeah. I think a lot of people, like June was saying, are of the feeling like the first record had what this record lacks a little bit.
I'm kind of there with them. Like, Your Queen is a Reptile was one of my favorite records the year it released, and it's still a fantastic album. But anyway, what Chaz was saying.
So I don't agree with that, though. I don't think this album is trying to. So it has a clear message and poignancy to it that it's trying to get across, as Brian mentioned. I think it does that amazingly. I think what people are missing, though, is that at the end of the day, we're just trying to get some good-ass grooves going and come in and say what we need to say and then leave. And I think it does just that. I think having more poetry would just bloat the fucking thing. I think having a great poem at the beginning and a great poem at the end to bookend it, and just amazing grooves with some lyrics here and there, just kind of flow through, make for a great experience. I will admit that the pacing is a little wonky, but it doesn't really get wonky for me towards like the last 3 tracks. But I mean, Envision Yourself Levitating and Throughout the Madness Stay Strong are fantastic tracks. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, those are the last 2 before the final spoken word piece. Those are probably my favorite tracks.
So last time we talked about jazz was John Larkin's Self-Titled, and
fuck, that's the last time we did a jazz record. It's been like 4 or 5 episodes, it feels like, actually. What the fuck? We
don't talk about jazz a lot, but I like.
Yeah,
I
it
feel
just feels like we were better about it.
When we do, we always really bring some different stuff. So this is an Afro jazz record. I think we should get some more context of what the music we're listening to is. What is Afro jazz? June, if I need any help, I'll tag you in, since you and I are kind of the jazz heads here. Afro jazz at its basic elements is jazz, modern jazz music, kind of with African rhythms. So a lot of like drum rhythms to kind of get the grooves going. I think it makes for a great excuse to go on a
That's a
groove.
good point. Like the album is very like rhythmically driven. Like the song, let me find it real quick.
Hustle for sure, and fucking
Hustle.
maybe,
Yeah,
I
Hustle
think
has a lot of
Thinkaphone
like
that has the ba 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 ba.
a lot of the
coming in.
flourishes. There aren't a lot of like flourishes like you would hear like in a sax flourish or something, where it's like a lot of noodly kind of sax playing. It's very much like rhythmic trumpet.
Well,
kind
it
of
reminds me,
blurting in, you know.
This is my jazz nerd hat tipping off. It reminds me of Moon Hooch and Too Many Zoos, a very modern style of sax playing in jazz. Like, I would imagine them with like traffic cones in their fucking saxes. June probably knows what I'm talking about. It's just like a new style of playing saxophone to get these different sounds and tones out of your instrument. And I think that's all over this. Whether they actually did that or not, I wasn't there when they made it, but it sounds like that. If I were to make a comparison, it sounds like Moon Hooch. However, but the Afro jazz and Afrobeat stuff makes like when they go into a groove feel warranted, because I fucking love African rhythms. I think that shit is slamming. So when they go in this groove and we hear like the dong ticka dong ticka dong ticka dong, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, dude, that's awesome. So I was just raptured from the start to end, and more listens, just certain melodies came out to me more and more that are very memorable, very sharp. There's even a moment where the sax, I think there's human voices behind it, but it sounds like a screeching man. Like it sounds like a man crying for help. And I'm like, how the fuck does they get the sax to sound like that? Super cool. Talking about the actual lyricism, I mean, yeah, it's great. The line that stood out to me the most was in the first poem, you made me say prayers in another language. Rhyming that shit with sandwich. Fucking amazing. I've never heard a fucking rhyme scheme like that. Great. I mean, yeah, it's poignant. It's got shit to say. I think having more of it, though, would have taken away, because I think what we're supposed to be paying attention to here is the music. And the music here is fucking excellent. I think bookmarking with two great poems was a smart move, because a lot of political and, about what Brian was talking about, subject matter, has come out in the past months and last year since then. So I think they were smart enough to say, okay, we really want to get this message out, but we don't want to just bog it down too much. So I think being sparing with it was a smart move. I disagree with everybody who says they want more. I mean, more would have been fine, but I think at the end of the day, it would have just been too much of a good thing there. What do you guys think?
I honestly can't really argue with that, because while I don't enjoy the album as much as you do, the reasons why you enjoy it so much are perfectly sorry. Because while I don't enjoy it as much as you do, the reasons why you enjoy it are perfectly valid. And I'm really enjoying hearing your perspective on it. And I can kind of see how having fewer messages, but having the messages be more pointed could make them more lasting. Maybe
Because
not.
I think
I still think, yeah.
Well, having more, I mean, when I listen to it, so as Brian was mentioning, you kind of have you have a great start, and then it kind of lulls in the middle. I think the middle, although Hustle's my favorite fucking song, I think the middle is when the album really picks up, because we've kind of set up the message, and now we're just got some great grooves going till the end, when you have that amazing ending, leave Black B, you've owned the world, leave us alone. That is such a powerful ending. I think having more shit said before that would have taken away from how impactful that line truly is. But I think I'm in the minority with that one, because it seems to me almost everyone's kind of collectively saying the same thing. I think more poetry would have helped, or more lyrics would have helped. I think we're forgetting how great this fucking music is, though. The rhythms and the sax, the way it sounds, and you got flute every now and then. And the tuba adds so much to the drums. The
tuba is really one of the most distinctive
instruments in a jazz I've heard. Yeah,
Sons of Kemet, like the Sons of Kemet and tubas kind of go hand in hand right now, I think.
So I'm in the minority here, but I'm gonna give this a light 9, maybe a strong 8. Like maybe when the hype dies down for me. But right now I'm at a light 9 because
the thing was I was super hyped when I heard it. Like I was at your level, but the more I've heard it, the more I'm just like, you know what? I don't think it goes far enough. You know.
Well, 4 listens. I think what saved it for me was the music itself. I really got caught in like almost every instrumental tune here.
The tubas are badass. Like you were saying, they kind of blow your fucking mind a little bit. If you like, I haven't heard a lot of jazz, and I definitely don't hear a lot of tubas in jazz. So like, it's just fucking cool to hear.
And Afro jazz is a genre of jazz that I'm not too familiar with, but I mean, yeah, African rhythms and jazz. I mean, like that's a match made in heaven right there. So I love it, and I think having the poems involved really help a lot. But like I said, I think they say just what they need to say. They get in, they get out, say what they need to say, and they have great grooves along the way. Light 9.
I'm gonna go with like a decent 7, like a light decent 7.
I'd echo the decent 7.
This is a fucking iridescent situation. Fucking Brian's like, chill, dude. It has some flaws, and I'm like, nah, it's perfect.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like my only flaw literally is the pacing, and it doesn't hit me until like the near end. I think 51 minutes is a bit much, but like I said, I'm not much of a groove guy, and we've seen that on the show here. But I think what makes me love these grooves is the rhythmic section.
You loved Karma. Karma is like one big long groove for the most part. And
Karma is like super phase driven though. Not to get into talking about a record we talked about forever ago. Karma, the appeal is like it's a massive, epic, evolving piece.
Yeah, but it also it goes back to the boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
boom.
it recalls it. It's like
it has that it has that general chord progression throughout a majority of it. Anyway, enough talking about Karma. We've already all gushed about that record. We're gonna move on to Chaz's pick.
So the album I've picked is the acclaimed Atarishi Hino Tanjo, which
nice. No, that was good. That was pretty much it, right?
Translates to Birth of a New Day, if I'm not mistaken. And it's by the duo 2814, which is made up of HKE and Telepath, both very well-known vaporwave artists, especially like in the modern sense, like recently, like 2015 onward. This is their kind of like duo project that they've been doing for a while now, 2814, and this is their very highly acclaimed Birth of a New Day. So context, this is my third part in basically what started as I just want to talk about vaporwave with Floral Shop has now turned into, since our Future Funk discussion, how can I get the boomer Brian to understand the musical genre that is vapor music? So we've done pure vaporwave, chopped and screwed, that kind of stuff with Floral Shop. We've done Future Funk with St. Pepsi. Both have gone over very well, great discussions. Now we're at the point where I'm kind of the boomer. I've kind of dipped off the vaporwave train to the point where there are like 6 or 7 different new subgenres that I was not made aware of. So me and Brian are going on this musical journey together. So I'm kind of being a little tourist core with this one, as I will also be with when I bring back more outsider music. This is like the only bolded vaporwave album I've ever seen. So, but the one I wanted to talk about now, since we've been kind of on an ambient wave lately with this season, surprisingly.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of ambient.
I've chosen like 2 ambient records. Yeah.
So Dream Punk, that is the genre of vaporwave, subgenre of vaporwave we're talking about today. What is Dream Punk? It's essentially a more minimal...
I think it's just ambient music.
Well, it's a minimal ambient version of vaporwave, but it's a little more complicated than that because it's not even really a genre. It's kind of like queercore. It's more of a movement than an actual like genre. Because this is basically a pure ambient album, but the Dream
so
Punk,
I guess like maybe Dream Punk is the aesthetic because it's very much meant to be like this is like a city album. Like this is very much like the soundtrack to like a golden age anime set in like if Akira wasn't so harrowing, like this would be the soundtrack. If we were just chilling in New Tokyo and there were no biker gangs and there's no no violence or bombs. So that seems to me what Dream Punk is.
Yeah,
kind of defining
I would
that
agree.
Aesthetic from the cover to the which by the way the cover is the same colors as our little backdrop. I don't know if we are we gonna get sued. Anyway.
It's a nice shade of purple. Anyway, I was gonna mention what I think makes this a Dream Punk record in sound, instead of just being an ambient record, is I think that it's the source material. Except here, rather than doing what St. Pepsi did and what Floral Shop did, and slightly changing some things and rearranging some shit.
This is original.
I think what we have here is a lot of shit plucked from a lot of different places and screwed with to the point of unrecognizability.
Yeah, but I think like the music is original, like, which is...
Oh yeah, I mean the compositions are original, absolutely. Yeah. It's still a sample-based
the
sound.
Sampling coming from like field recordings of subways and police sirens.
But there's also like pianos. Maybe the dream punk thing comes from like too. There are a couple of moments like on the last track I can think of. We almost kind of go from an ambient to like a very laid back house beat for a minute with like some sampled hi-hats that come
there's
in.
There's some down tempo elements on this one.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it is. Like it's like this is the punk version of this ambient sound. I don't know.
Which is cool.
It's interesting.
I really dig it. So this is a very highly acclaimed album. It's arguably probably the most highly acclaimed modern vaporwave, like 2015 onward album I can think of.
It's probably because it's closer to ambient music than it is vaporwave, and it just happens to be very good. Like that's kind of, I feel like that's why
that vaporwave has changed from just like especially with our future funk discussion, it's become more of like a Japanese culture. Like that's where some of the source material is coming from nowadays.
Yeah.
Because when we talked about Floral Shop, like that was like a lot of soul and soul pop.
It's weird the evolution we've looked at, because like we've definitely, this is like, I mean, we can still do more vaporwave, but we've almost like done a perfect arc of like Floral Shop. Like people are trying to, like, this new sound kind of comes out and people are trying to figure out if it's good, do they like it, and of course there's a subsection of the audience that loves it and goes on to make more. And that's where we get shit like future funk, which to me was so far has been the most interesting sampling, because it's close to the sampling I'm familiar with, where like, you know, hip hop songs will sample like that one Tribe Called Quest song where they sample that, oh my god, you know, it's just sampling shit that sounds badass. And then this is like appropriation of those sounds to the point where, like, I mean, I don't even know if I didn't know if it was sampled, and you really wouldn't be able to tell if no one told you.
The only sampling that's like actually apparent is the movie clip sampled in like couple tracks
at the very end of the second. There's like, I mean, I don't know, dude. It's so weird because like, I almost wonder, like, was there... It's good music. Like, I like the way they reuse the sounds and stuff, but to what end, like, did this need to be sampled? You know, that's kind of like what I think about it.
Well, it's about creating an atmosphere. I think they were incredibly... I think they chose very specifically that just the sounds that appear on this record that create its atmosphere. I think part of the reason why it's so popular is because it is so transportative, and I don't think this is something that they could have necessarily done with just, I don't know, I feel like every sound here has a purpose. I feel like there are a lot of little things hidden away, even if it's an ambient record, but I wouldn't necessarily call it minimal, because it has a lot of shit going on. There are a lot of tracks here, there are a lot of different synths, you know, chords going on at the same time.
That's why
something's usually happening.
That's why I like the dream punk description on Rim is like a minimal version of vaporwave, and I think that's like the basics. But I think dream punk is, like we've talked about, it's like a queercore kind of thing where it's a movement. It was like a response to, you know, the vaporwave genre was introduced, and a response to it was, well, fuck that, I want to do something way more like complicated or ambient than that, and then the dream punk movement was created. And like I said, there's like 5 more different genres that we get to talk about for future seasons. There's fucking hard vapor, utopian virtual, vapor trap, that shit's weird. And then like at the core subgenres of vaporwave, there's broken transmission and mall soft. Like,
I remember broken transmission. I remember seeing that and be like, what the fuck?
And I looked into it, like it's basically like samplings of like weather. It's crazy. So we've got a long journey ahead of us for vaporwave. So right now we're talking about the dream punk movement with Birth of a New Day. So what are my thoughts on it? I think it's a fantastic ambient record, and it's beautifully relaxing, creates an amazing soundscape. But not only that, I'm engaged. I'm not bored through the entire time. I'm completely captivated while just kind of mellowing out. Like, it's exactly why I love Coma so much, because Coma gives me the exact same kind of feeling. But this one specifically, I get a Fishman's vibe from this. I don't know about you guys, but there's a strong Fishman's long season kind of thing going on here. Maybe with a more ambient hinge to it, but I just think it's crazy, like how Japanese culture has kind of like taken over vaporwave. I think it's kind of amazing, but it's like honestly a perfect fit. Like with future funk and the city pop stuff, it's like it makes perfect sense.
City pop is like vaporwave. Like that shit is so cheesy and so like vibey that it's like you could just loot it all, and there's an endless supply of it. Like
it's still just being like the surface is still just being scratched. I feel like there's going to be way more subgenre, because this is just a whole new genre of music, vapor music. I mean, I feel like we still have only scratched the surface.
Like I like this album. I want to get that out of the way. Like I was saying, I like it. I think it sounds really pretty. I like you. I think the atmosphere is really strong. I like some of the sound design with like the sirens and the weird drone that comes in at the end of a lot of the songs. I like the rain that's just in the background constantly for one of the last tracks on the record. But like, I don't know if I'm out of touch or if I'm right. Because like,
you're out of touch.
You're a boomer, dude. You're a boomer when it comes to
I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, I feel like this album just could have been, like, I know is it entirely sampled? I guess we don't know for sure. But like, it could have been just made. I don't necessarily, it doesn't make it not a good album because of the way it was arranged. I just don't understand necessarily why they would.
It's the specific kind of atmosphere.
And I think that's what makes it interesting is like the beauty of the mystery is, was this made from scratch, or is this just a million samples build up to a whole new different project? And I think that's what makes the vaporwave genre so interesting. And when people talk shit about it saying, oh, I could make that on my own, I don't think you could. I think goes a lot more into it than people give that.
With this one, no. Like with this and Saint Pepsi, no. Like Floral Shop, I think maybe that critique being lobbed at it wasn't necessarily the most unfair thing in the world. But as we've like listened to more, I don't think that's the case. Like, I mean, I don't agree with that critique anymore. I just don't know. I don't know. Like, I couldn't even tell anything was sampled. So just thinking about how the music was arranged, maybe I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter if I know it was sampled or not, right? It just matters if I enjoyed it.
I just love your existential crisis to this whole genre of music.
It just seems strange.
So
I don't understand. I think I just don't understand the movement.
Also, speaking of my Fishman's vibe, this is kind of the whole point I wanted to make. That water sloshing at the final track is like, again, what is it with Japanese culture and music with water sloshing? Like, what is that weird parallel going on? Because
it's also like an ambient thing. I feel like that's maybe just the thing in ambient.
I like it a lot
too.
more here because it's rhythmic. It's like with the rhythm of the music, so I'm like kind of like vibing to it, even though it's still like.
Sometimes it was like plopping.
I know.
Yeah,
it's like
it
like someone's washing dishes or something.
This definitely reminds me of Music for 9 postcards in a way, although Music for 9 is way more minimal, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Whereas this one is like, there's definitely more sound design and like, thoughts to an atmosphere being created. Whereas like Music for 9 postcards is definitely just like very peaceful and in some ways hypnotic. This one is very much like vibey. I'm trying to just make sure I differentiate them. Like this one is like I was describing that city feel before, whereas Music for 9 is definitely just meditative kind of it doesn't put you in a new place. It's not really transportative, whereas this is definitely going for that like transportative and particular kind of setting that it's trying to create the sounds for. I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was real good. I don't want my boomer tendencies to make people think I didn't enjoy it and that it's not worth your time, because it is. But
I'll have to figure out what next. I kind of like that each season. I'll do a vapor.
I guess my thought is
music.
I think you would just like this is a good ambient record. I don't know if it's like a good record to get into vaporwave. I don't know. I don't really. I've not heard.
It's not
a lot
because
of it.
it's. I mean, it's got like a subgenre, like a secondary genre tag of vaporwave. This is the most unvaporwave in the core sense of that genre, like slowing down a sample, adding reverb, and like the most core. This is not that though, but the dream punk element I think is 100% there. because I think it really does feel like a response to that. It's like, well, we could be more complex than just a sample. We could make something from the ground up and make it more interesting than just that. But is it still vaporwave then? You know, like that's a really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know. I feel like I'm fucking talking about philosophy and I'm 16 years old.
I think it is because
vaporwave
is a very production heavy genre, and I think the modern production here gives it that hinge. Just like future funk is adding modern production to these city pop samples and kind of adding more treble than bass kind of thing. Very house oriented stuff. As we mentioned in our discussion of that, it's very intriguing, and it really is like a modern genre of music. But June, we've been kind of like spatting back and forth here. What do you think about this record and all we've talked about?
I basically concur with everything you said. I think it's a beautiful record. I think it's arranged wonderfully. It's over an hour long, and it doesn't really
amazingly paced.
Even the last track,
amazingly paced,
13 minutes. And I think the last track has that rain sound, and it has that sort of groove going on. And to me, it sounds like a train. It's almost like a kind of.
Yeah.
That just goes for a while, and it just feels like it's kind of riding you out. I always think of a train when that song comes on. It just sounds like I'm listening to a train wheels.
I will say, like, when the sirens come on that first song, it is so well produced. I think there are sirens outside like every single time. Now we do live in an area where like sirens are.
Yeah, Brian texted me, he said, Chaz, you're not allowed to pick albums with siren noises in it anymore. Brian, did you think they were coming for you or something? Like, why did that bother you?
I was just like, oh, are there sirens out on the road? And they went for a long time and were really loud. I was like, oh, they might be right outside. There might be something going on at the convenience store or something. And obviously it was the fucking song.
So June,
I think it's a great album. It's a fantastic record. It's it is completely transportative. It sounds like the album cover looks, you know, and it actually does that justice. It doesn't feel like a half-assed attempt at making something steampunky or nostalgic, but also futuristic. Like, it manages to, I don't know, live up to expectations, which is a difficult thing to do when you're in the age of, you know, lo-fi hip-hop beats to study to, where there's just such a massive amount of mood music that you can find on the internet. So much like background ambient type of music. And this, you know, standing out in that crowd is very, very impressive. So I would give this record like a strong 8.
Facts. Strong 8 as well. Amazing ambient record and a very fascinating vapor album. I will have to think long and hard about what next genre of vapor music we will talk about. Maybe Brian will finally open his third eye, but for now, Brian, what do you give this album?
I'm going to go with a strong 7 to a light 8. It's very enjoyable. It's my favorite vapor music we've done, I think. Hit Pepsi. It's like, you know, it goes in the order we've done it is like my worst to best is like, you know, Floral, then Hit Vibes, then this one, 2814. So, and then like as far as like other ambient music we've done, I like Music for 9 Postcards definitely more. And I think what's that album called? Substrata?
Yeah.
Is more interesting, but I don't like it as much.
And then Colma at the top.
I mean, Colma is good, but Colma is like you know, it's not a true blue ambient record. It has a lot of ambient on it, and it's a different kind of ambient. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Compared to the ones we've been talking about. But I mean, Colma, if it is an ambient album, I mean, it's definitely my favorite. But it's just because it has the most variety. You know?
Yeah.
So I decided to take it way back to season 1, where I was choosing a bunch of 80s alternative and new wave records by various eccentric women.
And going on a very personal journey as well, apparently.
Now known as Junecore. And I decided to go back to Junecore. Classic Junecore. Weird 80s new wavy shit. And one that I've been thinking about choosing since we started this show because of how just strange it is Sleep It Off by Cristina. Cristina Monet, released in 1984. I should say, like, rest in peace. She died last year due to COVID. And that one definitely hit me because she was not that old. And
She was like 60.
anyway,
Yeah.
back in the 80s, she was a Harvard dropout who started working in music journalism, got married to someone who worked in music journalism, and basically was able to use her connections to get a record deal.
That's fucking awesome.
Normally you think that would result in something really bland, something that's not very creative, someone that's just cashing in.
But then you got to remember the guys from Deceit went to college and like graduate, you know.
And then you remember that you listen to her first record, which is a disco record. And
hell yeah,
it's kind of weird that it's mostly just like a standard sort of disco record. Literally the same year she drops the song Is That All There Is, which is basically just about life. And the whole moral of a song is basically just drink a lot, showing that there's a little bit of the just misanthropic and very what's the word I'm trying to think of? Basically, Cristina thinks that things are shit, and most of her songs tell stories or are from the perspective of characters. It's kind of like a femme fatale character from the 50s, from like some kind of noir movie. It's like a femme fatale who's really like kind of lost it in a way, who is still a little bit glamorous, who's still a bit, you know, like you get that on the first couple songs, Don't Mutilate My Mink and Ticket to the Tropics, which are both like,
if those are your first few
really catchy new wave tracks. They have their own they have their own little things that make them stand out, but they're both like just really, you know, off the bat, catchy new wave songs. But I don't know, like there's some stuff on here, I'm sure we'll get into it. That
we
is
take
just,
a
like,
dive.
You were underselling how weird this album is. Like
Yeah,
you were completely underselling how fucking wild and noisy it is.
Can I kick it off?
It is. It's no. Before I'll just describe the sound. It's a new wave record, but it's also got a lot of just noisy guitars,
Wall of
very
sound,
rough
like
production.
That's like
This
the
is
perfect
like
way to describe it.
Beyond garage rock levels of loud. Like we are reaching like noise pop levels of ow my fucking ears on a couple of these songs, especially on like Quicksand Lover, which is like a whirring, buzzing, high-pitched song. Like is to the point of like I have to turn this song down every time it comes on loud. Like it is fucking insanely loud.
You know what I just realized?
What?
Loud plus eccentric vocalist. Should have known this one was gonna get you. I should have known.
Also, it's catchy. It's really, really catchy. Even the slower songs are catchy, like Ballad of Immoral Earrings with the
Earnings. Earrings, really?
I have earrings.
It's Ballad of Immoral Earnings.
No, I'm pretty sure it's earrings.
Earnings.
Yep, it's earnings.
Earnings. Big
It's earnings.
head.
Whoops. Big head.
Whoop.
But even a slower song like that one is awesome with the refrain with like the whorehouse where we used to live. And that's another thing. Lyrically, what the fuck?
This album is
holy fuck.
nuts.
Holy shit. And literally, and like, it's not like in a few pockets. It's not like there are 1 or 2 songs that are crazy. They're all fucking crazy. Like, they're all really crazy.
So
Cristina is basically on every single song taking the most toxic parts of like love and relationships and not only describing them like vividly, but also like is reminiscing on them in a positive way.
Yeah.
Like she is into it. Like the
Yeah, and
Ballad
that's
of
the
Immoral
weirdest
Earnings is the
part.
song that most exemplifies when she is literally at one point reminiscing fondly on this abortion she had and like this horrible relationship she had with this dude where he threw her down the stairs.
Which
And
the character she's playing.
the way she looks back on it, because it's these really horrible experiences and it's being looked back on like in a fucked up way, like fondly, it almost makes the record more human because it's very much like
Weird.
wow,
It's like
yeah,
the cognitive dissonance on display on Ballad of Immoral Earnings, which is just like, you know, the description of this horrible abuse, and then basically where it's a duet where she takes a verse and then the vocalist who's sort of playing the part of the man in the story takes a verse. And then they come together on the chorus to basically say, gosh, wouldn't it be great if we could go back to those times?
I know, it's so crazy. There's even
like it hits you for a loop because you're not expecting, like,
that song.
You're kind of expecting her to come out and say, fuck that guy, right? Like you're kind of expecting the story to have some kind of macabre ending where she like kills him horribly or something, but no, like they're still around and it's weird.
We get that just at the end, you know, with Dines on Death. We do get that though, like
it is
murder.
The record is a little bit psycho. It kind of is. Like I don't like to throw around that word, but the record is absolutely a little bit psycho. Like and it's every single song. This is like new wave shoo, like with the level of like just raw and eye-widening. That's like lyrical content, but also like it reminds me a lot of like Shoo-Shoo's poppier stuff. Like it's so loud and weird and fucking it's jarring. I mean, it's just jarring. And okay, so I have a different track list order, but I think mine is better. So apparently this album opens with Mutilate My Mink, the most normal cut here, and it is still
but it's so fucking catchy though.
It's really good. It's a really good song. It's actually like, I mean, despite how good it is, it's actually one of my, I guess I would have to say, least favorites. Because my fucking albums open up with "What's a Girl to Do," which is shocking. Shocking way to open. This is one of the noisier songs here. And it's not only is it noisy, it's like driving.
That synth
and the lyrics
is like
here,
broken.
like
that's
like
the
on Mutilate My
fucking
Mink,
broken, dude.
Mutilate My Mink, I feel like the lyrics don't jump out as you much. On What's a Girl to Do, I feel like I'm getting the album's mission statement like right off the bat, which I thought this was way better of an opener than Mutilate My Mink. I actually listened through with the correct track, like the correct track order at one point. I like my order way more because I think it still flows good, and I just think opening with that fucking rager was such an important step to show you like here's what this album's actually about. My third track is Lie of Love instead of Can't Say That Anymore. Blue Money is second to last, and She Can't Say That Anymore is at track 7 instead of What's a Girl to Do, which is a very important switch because that means I wouldn't have gotten my opener until like the end of the album, which I think it's way better suited for the front half of the record. Gosh, I'm sorry. I want to keep talking. Lie of Love, fucking great song. A necessary cool down after you get hit with What's a Girl to Do, and then everyone's second track is Take It to the Tropics. This song about how she meets this guy on a night out, it looks like, and he like exploits her by like promising her love and then spends her money and then like one night stands her, basically is what I got from the track. You know, all you wanted was a ticket to the tropics. Like, you know what I mean? It's very quick and, you know, great for him. Like he just is kind of exploitative. And then Lie of Love is like kind of like, I guess June and Chaz on your versions, that comes near Ballad of Immoral Earnings, like before or after.
It's a little bit after. It's after. So it goes Ballad of Immoral Earnings, What's a Girl to Do, then Lie of Love.
Yeah, so that's kind of makes it a little more narrative driven. But Lie of Love is like this smooth, vibey.
It's mostly led by just acoustic guitar and bass. And
yeah, it's like
the most
little
happy song, but it's very bittersweet.
But obviously the lyrics are like kind of betraying the
it's also
calm
called
tone.
Lie of Love. Well, it's weird because
it's saying
I like it near the end.
It's saying essentially these two people have no chance of having like a actual good relationship, but they're so committed that they're gonna try and make it work regardless of the faults and the complications, and some of those complications being very, very like, what?
Yeah.
But they're making it work, which I guess is the most happy thing you could ever say about this record is that song.
I should also mention that on the correct version, where Live Love is near the end, you've just had nearly a full album of some of the most just toxic relationships ever. It's like abusive situations, like violence, like just awful shit. And and sung with this disarming snarkiness. Because Christina throughout this record is not like bereaving. She is just this snarky, kind of punky new wave sort of attitude.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, there's some tracks where it's like she's almost, this character she's playing is almost reminiscing, which throws you off even more. And then you get to Lie of Love, where she's saying that love is a lie, but the chorus will live the lie of love. So they're trying something at least. And that song being easily the most musically chill with a really beautiful guitar work and a really nice bass.
There is a lot of variety, like especially with like Lie of Love and She Can't Say That Anymore and Quicksand Lover, even Rage and Fascination, which is like the dreamiest song here. Oh, holy fuck. Blue Money. Woo, this is one of the best songs we've ever fucking heard for the show.
Weirdest
this
take
fucking
of
song
the season so far.
Slaps so fucking hard. The crazy sax blurts. It's the catchiest song here. It is, by the time we get to the end, it has gone like completely berserk. It's like she's screaming. Like it's the most, like, this has like everything that I could ever want in this fucking song. I love that fucking song. I am shocked that's not like the best song ever for everyone that hears this, because like it's new wave. I mean, it's almost like a no wave song too, and a couple of the songs are like that too, where like it flirts with the atonal, shrieking kind of. It goes from like the new wave groove to the Chad no wave thump, if you will.
Facts.
I think that's all I have to say.
I wanna say things. First off, I feel bad for her husband when she was making this music, because I don't think this is biographical, so I'm sure they had a wonderful relationship, whatever. So I bet when she was making this, her husband was like, "Are you okay? Like, did I hurt you? Like, do we need to talk about, like, is everything all right?" So this is a case of, at its core, I really do enjoy this, but there's just a good couple of flaws that just don't quite make it this awe-inspiring experience that Brian has described it as. I think it's a very flawed album. First off, super nostalgic when the first track hit, though. I was like, damn, we are back in season 1 in the fucking booth, face-to-face, like 2018, crazy. I really was like getting some season 1 vibes. This is a strong early June pick. As it stands amongst like the like Waitresses or what other new wave shit did you pick, June? What are like some big notable new wave stuff? Like the Waitresses is the one that I think the most.
The big four of June core. It has to be 80s and new wave. So I mean,
Raincoats. I know Raincoats is a new wave.
The ones I think of, Chaz, in terms of like June core are like Waitresses, Throwing Muses,
yes,
Dog-Faced Hermans. There's one more, Life Without Buildings. And
it's Raincoats,
like,
for sure. This one kind of stacks up, like how I think about it, kind of like it's around the same. Like I like it a lot. There's just a lot of flaws, or there's something about it that's just not gripping to me. For this album, it's the flaws. So let me talk about what I like about it. The new wave production and the no wave elements are great. I fucking love how fucking jittery the synth sounds are on this, especially on What's a Girl to Do. I mean, the fucking or the Ticket to the Tropics, that Devo style guitar riff. It's fucking wild, dude. And the wall of sound of aesthetic really makes for like a very distinct and stands among the crowd kind of listen. Because like while Waitresses, was a Frankenstein of an album with like a million different types of music combined, can see these two like being very similar in terms of the lyrical content, but two very different points of view. Like Patty Donahue and Cristina here are two very different types of women.
You can compare to the Waitresses because they are both very snarky.
Yeah.
It's definitely
yeah.
closer
Very-
to Waitresses.
They're like a
So-
little snarky. They're a bit sarcastic, very sarcastic.
So
Um,
my favorite element musically is the drums and synth, or the guitars and synth. The drums and bass are fine. The opening riff of "Don't Mutilate My Mink" is like 80s arena. I fucking adore it.
it's like a classic, like 1977 punk riff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum,
Like,
bum, bum,
that song's
bum, bum,
awesome.
bum,
I love
bum,
it.
bum.
I think it's a total rager. I think it is fucking like, and that's the thing. I love that song a lot, and it's fucking dwarfed by Blue Money to me. Like, Blue Money kicks so much fucking. I just don't think you understand with your little chickpea, your dry chickpea brain, Chaz. All right, you're wrong.
Nah,
All right, fine,
I'll talk
say
about
it.
Blue
I've
Money
been
in a
nice
minute.
to you for too fucking long, but you're wrong.
My favorite song is Ticket to the
Objectively.
Tropics. Ticket to the Tropics is awesome. Love the Devo style riff. Love that fucking chorus. Love just like the fucking acid Rugrats sounding synth throughout the fucking album. Love that shit. So the problems. The lyrics are the best thing and the worst thing about this album. They're the best because when they're fucking in your face and blunt as shit, they're amazing. I don't like it when the album gets a little, I'm going to put this in quotation marks, cryptic. I feel like the album is at its best lyrically is when it's like,
What songs are cryptic to you?
Quicksand
I would-
Lovers.
I was gonna say that one.
Rage
is, yeah,
and
that one's-
Fascination.
Quicksand Lover isn't as complicated. I had trouble with that one too. I mean, that one is just about like someone making you a worse person in a relationship. Like,
Well, yeah,
and the chorus kind of gives
the
it all away.
metaphor of the title kind of, but like just, I mean, they don't hold a candle to Ballad of Immoral Earnings or What's a Girl to Do or Don't Mutilate My Mink or He Dines Out on Death. I mean, it's pretty fucking obvious when those songs
Rage
come
and
on.
Fascination to me is maybe the most like esoteric.
Don't get it twisted. I mean, when the lyrics are like shocking, I mean, they're great lyrics. I mean, I've never heard anything like this for the entirety of the show. And I think
Because
it's
she takes it so far, like it's.
But with the
it
new
makes
wave
it-
poppy sound, I mean, it really like it trudges shoo in that regard, purely for the fact that it's like this. It's the classic like happy sounding song with depressing lyrics. It's like
I don't know.
It destroys
I don't know how this is
it.
gonna make me come off, but like because it's so much more like, I guess, awful, like some of the things she's talking about, and because she turns around and is like, and I liked it. To me, that makes it like more badass. Like I think the album is like it's like, oh, she's talking about some like really harrowing shit, and then she's like, and it was awesome. I'm like, oh, shit, what the fuck?
Patty Donahue is like Spider-Man, and Christina here is Deadpool. Like fucking,
who's like
we're
a-
fighting for the
who's-
same side here, but our messages are completely different.
You know who this reminded me of, and I think it fits really well.
Yeah.
An actual contemporary of Christina, so it's not someone that I think Christina like saw and was like, I need to emulate this. 80s and early 90s Nick Cave, especially when she and Nick Cave will both do this, where they'll like really enunciate the last syllable of a word. Like if it's like I don't know, if for example, if they were saying mine, both Christina and Nick Cave go, mine.
Yeah.
They both do that.
Christina's vocals are hit and miss for me. On the one hand, like Don't Mutilate My Mink, Ticket to the Tropics, What's a Girl to Do, awesome. I hate Quicksand Lovers. It's like
'Cause it is
negative
like-
land levels for me of just like, damn, I'm having a fucking headache right now. I don't like her
Dude,
vocals on that track.
It's loud. It's my least favorite song too. Honestly, is Quicksand Lover.
Like my favorite moments for Christina as a vocalist is when she's like badass and just rocking. But sometimes
Blue
I
Money.
just think, nah,
on
Blue
Blue
Money.
Money.
Okay, Blue Money's the worst song on here, and there's not a bad song, but Blue Money, like we don't. Where was the sax in the rest of the album? Why is there just a random sax?
It's called making a song stand out more, you fool. Also, it's a song about being a sex worker, and as we know, sex jazz music, real genre. So
oh yeah, Bow Chicka Wow Wow.
this is not sex jazz. This is like, help this jazz. If there were jazz,
This is heroin jazz.
I think Blue Money's just kind of a weak track, and maybe it's because it's got like a rockabilly kind of like blue, like Elvis kind of. Maybe that's the point.
Blue Money. You mean that awesome fucking part right after the
I-
Olive Garden?
I think it's fine. I think it's the weakest track here, though. all in all, it's just I really like the album. I'm gonna give it a strong 7. I want to hear.
Oh my god, massive snow. This is like last season when you were like, all right, time to start my honorable mentions. Dogface Termins. I was like, Jazz a bitch for life.
I like it. I just think there's some things holding it back for me.
You can go fuck yourself, buddy. I'm tired of dealing with you. And then pretending I like you when you fucking bring bullshit like this. No, you're done. You're done.
No, wait, no. You're
finished being wrong for the day.
This is a commonality between a lot of season 1 June picks. I mean, the strong 7 was such a
this one is so much more unique and so much better.
I think it could be. I think it's a little
I don't
inconsistent.
like how you're saying it's more unique and better because they're all great.
They're all unique. They're all good.
So, June,
I don't think I've disliked any of them except the one that everyone is supposed to dislike because it's not good.
Life Without Buildings.
I will actually. Like your room is right over there.
June, I was with you. I was with you, and you were like, actually, I'll just abandon Brian. And then I looked. I didn't even have to look at Chaz, and I knew we were gonna shit on Life Without Buildings.
What do you think of my critiques and Brian's praises? And what do you think about Blue Money specifically?
I didn't think Blue Money would be. I didn't think it'd be this contentious.
So what do you think, June?
It doesn't always stand out to me among the track listing. I don't dislike it. This is fucking
horseshit.
If I listened to it now, like I don't know, maybe if I blasted that track, it would like really click with me.
I think to enjoy that track, you have to do drugs. I feel like that's the only way you could enjoy a track like that.
I was doing drugs. I should mention, yeah. No, I hit an 8-ball. It was fucking intense.
We're on the internet. No one knows you're lying.
I'm not lying.
He did it. He did it off of his lingua ignota vinyl. Like he straight.
I would never sully the cardboard. How dare you?
he pulled the vinyl out and did a perfect circle around the vinyl and just twisted that shit around his nose.
I just let it spin on my record player.
Played that coke, dude. It's crazy.
You would die. You would fucking die. That would kill you.
I am going to give this record a strong 8. Fantastic record, vibrant record, weird record. I love her, like, mid-Atlantic accent that is kind of gone nowadays, or, you know, like, where a little bit of that old British accent was still there. And then she's also, like, this sort of femme fatale, but, like, on heroin. And I don't know, like there's just this whatever character she's playing it's a pretty stunning character portrait of deeply disturbed individual. Yeah, and it's also catchy as hell and has a lot of different sounds going on. So strong 8.
Brian, light 9, me, chill. It has some flaws.
I mean, I go with like a strong 8 to a light 9. I thought this thing was fucking killer.
I'm gonna love Blue Money, but like ironically, and then I'm gonna like it.
Just
Blue Money.
Like, what is the rim rating on that song in particular?
Dude, it's like the weakest track.
Suck my asshole, doo-doo man. I didn't ask you what you thought of it. I asked you.
Wow.
What's next time? We're done here.
Next one is a themed episode. It's live albums. We're doing a themed episode. It's been a minute since we've done one. We're gonna do live albums, a theme we haven't touched on yet. Picking albums that were recorded live is the only criteria.
So I have decided I'm gonna go with a fairly easy pick, but one by an artist that I have loved for a very long time. One of the artists that, when I was first getting into music, I was very big into them.
I think I know what it is.
And very big into this artist in particular. And over time, this is a live record with songs cherry-picked from different recordings. But it is very much a part in this artist's discography. So much so that it's always listed among his solo albums and among his studio work.
I don't know it anymore,
it contains a bunch of songs that the definitive versions of them are on this live record. So we're going to do the absolute classic Rust Never Sleeps.
Yes! Oh, I fucking read your mind immediately. Rust Never Sleeps is so good. God.
Neil Young and Crazy Horse.
Woo!
Rust Never Sleeps.
So this is interesting because this means this will be my second Neil Young album, both of which
fucking
have been
Neil Young
live.
song is on that album. God damn, let's go. That's a
So
great pick.
my first Neil Young album was
Time Fades Away, which is a
Fades
weird
Away.
first. That's like
No,
a
it's
that's like a
because-
Neil Young fan's Neil Young album.
It's because it's contextually it's after Harvest, and Harvest is more
My favorite's the one
upbeat,
with
as far as I
the.
know.
My favorite one is the one with the Game Boy camera as the album cover.
Time Fades Away just has a great cover and has a lot of
Anyway.
great piano ballads.
All right,
That's
well,
all.
that's a great. Oh, Rust Never Sleeps is so good. Okay, so I'm gonna totally flip side you and pick an artist that we've never touched on, but is a very famous artist, and a genre of music that we've never even like mentioned. We've maybe mentioned it like in passing, but we've never truly discussed this genre of music, and I think it's about time we do. We are going to do the acclaimed, simply titled "Live!" exclamation point by Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Okay. This is probably going to be really good, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's like
Certified,
if it's like-
certified 8 from Tom Hummer. Just saying, certified 8.
if this
Fuck up.
is a live show or a live compilation from Bob Marley and the Wailers' heyday in the 70s, like this is probably going to be really good.
Roots reggae. It's got all the hits that we need to hear. Burnin' and Lootin'. No Women, No Cry. I Shot the Sheriff. Get Up and Stand Up. We've got all
I might
the
have
hits.
grown up with this. I might have grown up with this CD. I know I definitely grew up
CD's
with
nuts.
a lot of Bob Marley, and all the songs you mentioned.
So I feel like it's time we finally get some reggae on the show, and Bob Marley's a fucking legend. So let's just do his live album.
Yeah,
Mine
I
is
like
mine is the most obscure this week. I'm actually going to do back-to-back jazz picks, and I'm going with King Curtis live at Fillmore West. One of my favorite jazz records. Just one of my straight up all-time favorite jazz records that I found on my own.
Good
And
job.
neither of you know who King Curtis is, and so it's not landing as big because he's not Neil Young, all right. He's not fucking Bob Marley in the Wailers.
That might be the coolest. Like me and Chaz both chose very big artists, very well established.
June, I have been banging on about this fucking King Curtis record for like 3 months.
You have, and I'm excited to hear it because you've been doing so. This is also like why we do the show, right? For the obscure.
This has been Unwarranted Music Opinions. I dabbed in real life. I was joined by June Lindbergh
Why?
and Chaz Jenkins.
Blue money.
Burn up, Chaz. Play that on the way out. There's no way we'll get sued. Just play the instrumental.
Okay.
Goodbye.